After the war erased history itself, Lyra, a cartographer, finds a map drawn in ash, one that changes every time it's read. Each line reveals a buried truth, and a city that should never be found again.
The first light of dawn crept hesitantly over the shattered skyline of Constantinople, casting a pallid glow on the ancient walls that had withstood centuries of turmoil. From his vantage point atop the battered ramparts, I, Elias, cartographer of this dying city, surveyed the smoldering ruins that littered the horizon. The air was thick with the acrid scent of smoke, mingled with the salty tang of the Bosphorus waters below. Somewhere beyond the veil of morning mist, fires still burned, silent witnesses to the relentless siege that had turned our home into a battlefield. I pulled my cloak tighter around my gaunt frame, the chill of early spring biting through the threadbare fabric. My eyes, sharp behind the thin wire rims of my spectacles, scanned the distant flickers of flame, each a wound in the skin of the empire I had known all my life. Constantinople was no longer the radiant jewel of Christendom. It was a city gasping under the weight of its own history, its legacy flickering like a candle in a storm. Behind me, the clamor of soldiers preparing for another day of defense rose faintly, a cacophony of orders shouted in the dark, the clanging of armor, and the restless murmurs of fear and determination. Yet amid this chaos, I found myself painfully alone, burdened by a secret heavier than the walls themselves. Long ago, my father had entrusted me with a map unlike any other. Its parchment was worn and faded, but its lines held a truth that might yet alter the course of this siege. Hidden within its labyrinthine markings lay a passage unknown to both invaders and defenders, a secret route that could offer salvation to those desperate enough to seek it. But with such knowledge came a price. To reveal the map's secret was to gamble with the fate of thousands, possibly sacrificing the future for a fleeting chance at escape. I retreated from the cold ramparts into the sanctuary of my chamber, a small room cluttered with scrolls, inkpots, and the tools of my craft. The flickering candlelight played tricks on the walls, casting dancing shadows that seemed to whisper of lost glories and impending doom. I carefully unrolled the treasured map on my worn desk, the scent of aged parchment rising like a ghost from the past. Tracing the hidden passage with a trembling finger, I felt the weight of my father's legacy press upon me. His death had been shrouded in mystery, a casualty of the earlier conflicts that had brought us to this desperate juncture. Now his final gift was mine to wield a beacon of hope amid the encroaching darkness. Yet doubt gnawed at my resolve. Could I trust myself to use this knowledge wisely? The city around me was a tinderbox, fragile and volatile, ready to ignite at the slightest spark. To reveal the map's secret was to invite both salvation and destruction. The fires consuming Constantinople were more than mere flames. They were the embodiment of loss, of a world unraveling. Outside, the rumble of cannon fire shattered the morning stillness, shaking the very stones beneath my feet. I closed my eyes and breathed deeply, the sound a grim reminder that time was running short. The Ottoman forces, relentless and disciplined under the command of General Murad, pressed ever closer, their shadow darkening the horizon. In this crucible of fire and fear, I wrestled with my conscience. The city's fate lay tangled with my own, and every choice I made was etched in ash and uncertainty. Could I stand idle as the walls fell and the empire crumbled? Or would I summon the courage to act, to risk everything for a sliver of hope? As the day waned, the fires cast long, flickering shadows across the city's broken streets. I sat alone by my desk, the map spread before me, a silent testament to what was lost and what might still be saved. My fingers lingered on the hidden path, the faint lines glowing dimly beneath the candlelight, as I whispered a prayer to the ghosts of the past. "Let this city's soul endure," I murmured, "in the hearts of those who remember, and in the courage of those who dare to carry its legacy beyond the flames." And with that fragile hope kindling in my chest, I steeled myself for the days to come, knowing that the burden of the map was mine alone to bear. The fire that consumed Constantinople was both destroyer and witness, and I, Elias, cartographer and reluctant guardian, would be its chronicler and perhaps its salvation. The city groaned again. A low moan carried on the wind a dirge for an empire on the brink. But even as the ashes fell, I vowed that its story would not end here. Not while I still drew breath. Night deepened outside my window, and the distant flames flickered like dying stars. Yet within me, a stubborn flame remained, burning quietly against the dark. The sun had not yet risen over Constantinople, but the city was already awake with the uneasy murmur of a populace bracing for another day under siege. The air was thick with the acrid scent of smoke, drifting from the fires that licked at the edges of the city's defenses. I moved cautiously through the narrow streets, the weight of my secret map heavy beneath my cloak, my heart pounding with each uncertain step. The walls that had stood for centuries now groaned under the relentless pressure of the Ottoman horde, and every shadow seemed to whisper warnings of betrayal and ruin. As I passed beneath the crumbling archways and shuttered windows, the occasional glimpse of faces, some gaunt with hunger, others hardened by despair, reminded me of the city's soul hanging by a fragile thread. The familiar cobblestones beneath my feet felt foreign in this twilight of our empire, each step a journey deeper into uncertainty. It was in one such shadowed alley that I first saw her Sophia. She emerged from the gloom like a wraith, her dark hair framing sharp eyes that flicked over me with a mixture of suspicion and resolve. Clad in practical garments that blended with the muted colors of the city, she moved with the confidence of one who knew its secret veins and hidden passages. Our eyes met, and in that moment, the unspoken question hung between us. "Can we trust each other, Alias?" she said quietly, her voice low but edged with urgency. "The city is crumbling faster than you know. I can help you if you are willing to trust me." The name she spoke was the one I had not expected to hear from a stranger. How did she know? My mind raced, but the desperation in her eyes was undeniable. After a long pause, I nodded. Trust was a scarce commodity in these times, but survival demanded it. Sophia led me away from the bustling main thoroughfares into a maze of forgotten alleys and hidden stairways. The sounds of the city, the distant thunder of cannon fire, the sharp commands of sentries, the murmurs of frightened citizens faded behind us as we descended into the labyrinth beneath Constantinople. Here, in the cold dampness of the tunnels, the city's pulse was different, quieter, but no less alive. She spoke in hushed tones about the shifting alliances and whispered betrayals that threatened to unravel what little remained of the defenders' unity. "There are those who would sell our city for coin or favor," she warned. "Trust no one blindly." A shiver ran down my spine. I had long feared such treachery, but to hear it confirmed filled me with a mix of dread and resolve. The secret map I carried was more than a tool. It was a beacon of hope and a target for those who would see us fall. Our descent ended at a small chamber lined with faded frescoes, the damp stone walls bearing witness to centuries of history now under threat. Here, Sophia produced a worn piece of parchment, another map, this one marking the city's lesser-known passages and safe houses. Together, we compared it to my own, our fingers tracing the lines that promised a path through the chaos. As we exchanged information, the distant rumble of artillery underscored the urgency of our task. Every moment counted, every secret route a lifeline. Yet, beneath the practicality of our alliance, a fragile trust was growing, an ember of hope in a city smothered by smoke and fear. Later, as I made my way back through the twisting alleys, the flickering light of a tavern caught my eye. Drawn by the low murmur of voices, I slipped inside. The warmth of the fire was a stark contrast to the chill outside, but the faces around the room were etched with worry. Hushed words spoke of traitors among us, of plans and betrayals that could spell doom. I listened, every detail etching itself into my memory. The city was more divided than I had feared, and the stakes were higher than ever. My secret map was no longer just a relic of my father's legacy. It was a key that could unlock salvation or destruction. Returning to my quarters, I spread the maps before me, the flickering candlelight casting dancing shadows over the intricate lines. The weight of choice pressed heavily on my shoulders. To reveal the secret passage meant risking everything, but to keep it hidden was to condemn us all. The fire outside crackled like a living thing, its glow both a warning and a promise. In the whispers of the walls and the flicker of flames, I felt the city's heartbeat fragile, defiant, and desperate. As dawn approached, I knew the path ahead would be perilous. Trust was a gamble, and hope a scarce flame. But in this crucible of fear and loss, I was determined to fight for whatever light remained. The city was whispering secrets, and I was listening. The room was barely more than a shadow carved from the encroaching darkness, yet it held within it a fragile sanctuary. Elias sat hunched over his work table, his slender fingers delicately tracing the intricate lines of the ancient parchment spread before him. The flickering candlelight cast dancing shadows that seemed to animate the map, those winding roads and hidden passages whispering secrets only he could decipher. Outside, the city groaned beneath the relentless assault of the Ottoman siege, the distant thunder of cannon fire a grim percussion to the night's stillness. His eyes, sharp behind the thin wire of his spectacles, lingered on a particular fold in the map, an unmarked passage concealed by his father's careful hand. It was a path unknown to the enemy and most of the city's defenders, a silent promise of escape, or perhaps salvation. Elias's breath caught as the weight of that secret settled upon his chest, pressing down with the gravity of generations. A sudden gust rattled the narrow window panes, carrying with it the acrid scent of smoke and ash. The fires that had begun to claim the city's outskirts were creeping closer, licking hungrily at the stone and wood that had stood for centuries. Elias closed his eyes, letting the memories flood in unbidden, like a tide pulling him beneath the surface. He was no longer in the dim chamber, but a boy of 10, standing beside his father beneath a storm-darkened sky. The rain had soaked through their cloaks, the cold biting at their skin, yet his father's voice was steady, firm as he unfolded a smaller version of the map upon a battered wooden table. "Listen well, Elias," his father had said, eyes gleaming with a fierce light that the years had not dimmed. "This city is more than stone and mortar. It is the heart of an empire, a beacon for those who came before us. This map holds our legacy paths hidden to all but those who know where to look." Young Elias had nodded, the weight of his father's words pressing upon him, even then though he scarcely understood their full meaning. The night had ended in chaos. Shadows had crept into their home, voices dripping with menace and malice. His father had fought, fiercely and without hesitation, but the darkness had claimed him, leaving Elias alone with the map and a secret that could alter the fate of all. The memory shattered like glass when the distant toll of a bell echoed through the city, a mournful sound that marked another hour lost to the siege. Elias's fingers clenched the edge of the table, his thoughts drawn back to the present. The threat was no longer abstract. It was tangible, a storm of steel and fire barreling toward them with unyielding force. Outside the battered walls, the Ottoman army gathered like a dark tide, their banners snapping sharply in the wind. At their forefront stood General Murad, a towering figure clad in armor that gleamed dully beneath the overcast sky. Elias had heard tell of the man's cold efficiency and tactical brilliance, how his ambition stretched beyond the battlefield to the very heart of empire. There was a strange respect mingled with dread whenever Elias thought of Murad, a man who embodied the unstoppable march of history itself. As the general surveyed the city through narrowed eyes, Elias felt a chill that had nothing to do with the autumn air. The siege was tightening. The defenses that had once seemed impregnable were beginning to falter. Each day brought new losses, new scars etched into the city's soul. Elias rose from his chair, moving to the small window that overlooked the narrow street below. Flames flickered in the distance, casting a blood-red glow that stained the ancient stones. The cries of those fleeing mingled with the crackle of burning timber and the ever-present drumbeat of war. His heart twisted with a bitter mixture of fear and determination. Could he, a simple cartographer, alter the course of this great tragedy? Could the map his father had left him unlock a path through the despair, a way to preserve a fragment of what once was? The question weighed heavily, but the answer was no longer a distant hope, it was a necessity. Elias knew that the past was not merely a shadow but a guide, and in embracing his father's legacy, he might yet find the strength to face the darkness ahead. He gathered the scroll carefully, rolling it with practiced hands and securing it beneath his cloak. The city was burning, its fate teetering on a knife's edge, but within Elias burned a flame of resolve. Whatever the cost, he would guard the secret of the map, and perhaps, in the ashes of loss, kindle the fragile ember of hope. The night deepened, and beyond the walls, the drumbeat of war grew louder still. Elias turned away from the window, the echoes of the past trailing behind him as he prepared to confront the uncertain dawn. But fate had not yet revealed its final design. The shadows lengthened, and the story of the map of fire, empire, and loss was far from over. As Elias moved through the darkened streets later that night, the distant roar of General Murad's forces signaled the approaching storm. His father's voice whispered in his mind once more, "Guard this secret, Elias. It is the key to what remains." And so, beneath the burning sky of Constantinople, a cartographer's burden deepened, entwining past and present in a fragile dance on the edge of oblivion. The city's fate hung in the balance, and Elias knew that soon the echoes of the past would demand their reckoning. Yet, in the heart of destruction, a single truth endured. The fire that consumes also illuminates, and from the ashes, legends are born. He stepped into the night, ready to face whatever dawn would bring. The air inside the sanctuary was thick with the scent of burning frankincense, and the low murmur of prayers whispered by those who sought refuge within its ancient stone walls. Elias stepped cautiously across the threshold, the heavy wooden door creaking behind him as if reluctant to close out the world beyond a world ablaze with fire and despair. Here, in the shadowed sanctuary of Father Gregorios, the relentless siege of Constantinople seemed momentarily distant, replaced by an uneasy calm punctuated only by the soft shuffle of feet and the occasional sob of a child. Father Gregorios stood near the altar, his figure stooped but dignified beneath the simple robes that marked his clerical office. His eyes, shadowed with years of sorrow and wisdom, lifted to meet Elias's with a warmth that belied the devastation etched deep into the city's heart. "Elias," he greeted softly, his voice a balm in the oppressive gloom. "You come bearing much upon your shoulders." Elias nodded, the weight of the secret map pressing heavily against his conscience. "I seek guidance, Father. The city falls around us, and yet I hold a secret that might offer escape or salvation if only I can find the courage to use it." Gregorios motioned for Elias to follow him deeper into the sanctuary, past rows of huddled refugees whose faces told stories of loss and exhaustion. Flickering candlelight danced across frescoed walls depicting saints and martyrs, a silent testament to faith enduring through centuries of turmoil. "Faith," the old man murmured, "is not the absence of fear but the strength to stand amidst it." They found a quiet alcove where Father Gregorios spoke of the impermanence of empires and the enduring power of memory. "The city you love," he said, "is more than stones and walls. It is the spirit of its people, their stories, and their faith. Though the flames consume the flesh of Constantinople, its soul may yet survive in hearts that remember." Elias listened, torn between hope and despair. The map, with its hidden pathways beneath the city, was a fragile thread against the overwhelming tide of conquest. Yet it was a thread he felt compelled to follow, even if it meant risking everything. "How do I reconcile the duty to protect this secret with the lives depending on it?" he asked quietly. Before Father Gregorios could reply, a sudden commotion at the sanctuary's entrance shattered the fragile peace. Refugees burst in, faces streaked with soot and tears, breathless with urgent news of neighborhoods engulfed in flames and Ottoman soldiers pressing closer. The sanctuary, once a haven, was now a threshold between safety and destruction. Elias stepped forward, his gaze meeting that of the fathers. In that moment, the weight of history and the immediacy of survival intertwined, forging a resolve deep within him. The secret map was more than lines drawn on parchment. It was a beacon amid the gathering darkness. As the sanctuary filled with whispered prayers and hurried preparations, Elias found a moment alone by a flickering candle. The dancing flame cast long shadows across the ancient stones, mirroring the turmoil within his heart. Father Gregorios knelt nearby, his silent prayers a quiet anchor amidst the storm. The city was burning, its fate uncertain, yet here in this sacred refuge, Elias glimpsed the fragile endurance of hope, the ember that might yet kindle the dawn beyond the ashes. But the question remained, could faith and memory truly outlast the fire that threatened to consume all? He knew the path ahead would demand sacrifices far greater than any he had yet imagined. Yet in this crucible of loss and resolve, Elias's journey was only just beginning. With a final glance at the worn map, tucked safely within his cloak, he stepped back into the night. The distant roar of the siege mingling with the steady rhythm of his own heartbeat, a drumbeat, calling him onward into the unknown. The city was a furnace, its streets choked with smoke and the acrid scent of burning timber. Through narrow alleys and beneath crumbling arches, the pulse of Constantinople throbbed with tension and despair. Elias stood by the window of his modest workshop, the flickering light of a single candle casting long shadows on the maps spread across his desk. The fire outside was a relentless presence, its orange glow staining the darkness, a reminder that the city's walls weren't the only things being consumed. He heard the soft knock before Marcus entered, his expression taut beneath the grime and sweat of battle. The soldier's presence was a balm to Elias's frail nerves, a reminder of steadfast loyalty in a time when trust was a scarce commodity. "Alias," Marcus said quietly, closing the door behind him. "The soldiers are stretched thin, the Ottomans press harder each day. We need a plan." His voice carried the weight of exhaustion, but also an unyielding resolve. Elias nodded, pushing a scroll across the table. "The map holds a secret, a passage beneath the city that could lead us to safety. But it's a risk. If the wrong eyes see it," Marcus's gaze hardened. "I won't let that happen." Before Elias could respond, the workshop door creaked open again, and Isabella stepped inside, her posture poised but eyes wary. The noblewoman's arrival was unexpected, yet in these desperate times, unlikely alliances were forged in shadowed rooms like this one. "I've heard whispers," Isabella began, voice steady despite the tremor Elias detected beneath it, "of a secret route. If true, it could save my family and perhaps others." Elias studied her carefully. "Trust is a fragile thing here, Lady Isabella. This city is burning, and many would see that map in enemy hands if given the chance." She met his gaze with a mix of defiance and desperation. "And yet, some must survive." Marcus shifted uneasily, sensing the tension thickening the air. The three of them sat then, poring over the ancient parchment, the map's intricate lines promising both hope and peril. Outside, the distant roar of flames climbed higher, a grim chorus rising above the city's tightening grip. The fire was no longer just a physical threat. It was a symbol of the Empire's fading spirit, a relentless force eroding the walls, and the will of those within. Isabella's presence brought a new dynamic to their fragile alliance. Her knowledge of the city's elite circles offered access Elias lacked, but her ambitions and loyalties remained veiled. Marcus, ever the protector, watched her with suspicion, wary that desperation might drive her to betray them. "We need more than hope," Elias murmured, tracing the hidden path beneath the city's surface with a trembling finger. "We need trust, and we need action." Isabella's lips pressed into a thin line. "And what if that trust is misplaced? What then?" A sudden commotion outside shook the walls, the clamor of soldiers and the distant cries of panic piercing the night. Marcus rose swiftly, hand on the hilt of his sword. They were pushing again. "We don't have much time." Elias felt the weight of their predicament settle heavily upon him. The city was fracturing, its people caught between loyalty and survival, between the flames of destruction and the flickering light of hope. As he looked from Marcus to Isabella, he knew the path ahead would demand more than maps and knowledge. It would demand courage, sacrifice, and an unwavering resolve to protect what remained of their world. The secret passage was not just a route out, it was a test of their very humanity, and the fire outside was waiting. Elias moved through the narrow streets with Marcus at his side, the clatter of distant battle echoing off stone walls lined with soot and ash. The city was a living thing, trembling under siege, its breath ragged and uneven. "I remember when these streets were filled with merchants and children," Elias said softly, eyes scanning the shattered facades. "Now there were ghosts and shadows." Marcus grunted. "The city's spirit is strong, Elias. It's the people who decide if it lives or dies." They stopped near a collapsed archway where a small group of refugees huddled, faces etched with fear and exhaustion. Elias's heart ached with the knowledge that many would not endure. "We must move quickly," Marcus urged. "Every moment here puts more lives at risk." Isabella waited at the workshop when they returned, her expression unreadable beneath the flickering candlelight. She held a small satchel close, as if guarding it from the chaos beyond. "There are others," she said, "nobles and commoners alike. Some want to flee, others to fight." Elias folded his arms. "And what do you want?" Her eyes met his, steady and unflinching. "To survive, to build something after this fire consumes us all." The room was silent, the weight of her words settling between them like the ash outside. The flames that devoured Constantinople were more than a physical threat. They were a crucible, forging new bonds and breaking old ones. Elias knew the coming days would be measured not in victories or defeats, but in the choices made amid the smoke and ruins. He folded the map carefully, his fingers lingering on the hidden passage that might yet be their salvation. But first, they would have to survive each other. The night deepened, and Elias found himself alone for a moment, staring out over the city. The skyline was jagged now, roofs collapsed, minarets aflame, the golden domes of Hagia Sophia glowing eerily in the firelight. A cold wind stirred the ash, carrying with it the distant cries of battle and despair. He whispered to the darkness, "Father, guide me." The map lay beside him, a fragile thread linking past and future, hope and ruin. And as the fire's glow faded into the night, Elias steeled himself for the trials yet to come. The Empire's fate, and his own, hung in the balance. The alliance was as fragile as the city itself, but in the heart of the burning empire, Elias, Marcus, and Isabella prepared to face the coming storm. Each step forward was a defiant act against the encroaching darkness, a testament to the enduring spirit that no fire could fully extinguish. And beneath the ashes, secrets waited to be revealed.